Hello, good afternoon. So the last presentation before the break. So I will present you lessons learned through real-world deployments we had experienced in our company. So first of all, who is Decent Lab? Have you ever heard of it? Okay, so what we do, Decent Lab, we do provide real-time monitoring systems and devices to make them easy to deploy over multiple locations and to ensure data quality, like a lot of us here in the audience. We started our company as a spin-off from EMPA, the Swiss Federal Institute for Materials Research, in 2008, and already at that time we focused on wireless communicating sensors which are operated by battery. At that time, LoRa did not yet exist, so we were working on Zigbee-based radios and so on. So you see, we have these real-world experiences coming as well from the past, where not was connected to LoRa, but it's the same problems. So in short, that's where we are famous for. Decent Lab does a lot of sensor devices for outdoor monitoring, outdoor sensors in harsh environments. We have about 25 different sensors, which we have deployed, kind of sensors deployed worldwide. So this is the devices side. We have as well a data platform, and maybe here's already the message. Our data platform, Decent Lab Data Access, is connected to 15 different LoRaWAN networks, and there's more and more coming. And here already I come to a lesson learned. In our old times where we used legacy radios, we had to deploy, to go to the customer and sell our devices together with a base station which is connected to with a multi-hop network, the sensor nodes. So we had to sell a full solution to our customers. Now with LoRa, with an ecosystem of partners as these LoRaWAN operators, but also the data platform people, it have made our life far easier to convince customers and to bootstrap and begin to set up sensors in the field. So lesson learned is not go on your own, find your partners and use the ecosystem, and also something like the LoRa Alliance. Our devices are actually distributed in more than 20 countries on 4 continents. And there's also a lesson learned in that. It's maybe a little bit a better lesson. We learned already from the past, we started with 2.4 gigahertz. It's a hard lesson with sub-gigahertz. 4 continents means I don't know how many regions: North America, South America, Europe, and Asia. LoRa is not easy when it comes to radio communication in different regions. And yeah, this is one of the tougher things with LoRa when you want to have a worldwide picture and have businesses. So it's not me, Decent Lab, it's the whole team, and all these lessons learned come not from myself, but from the whole company and our customers when we have been in the field together with them, or they did bring us feedback. So it's me, it's Jonas Meyer, Jonas Biveroni, and Kasher Den. So lesson learned is that there is a community network which was from quite early in the very beginning worldwide available and was able to form a large community. This helped us to find new partners on the left side on South America and Colombia, where we could deploy immediately sensors through the TTN community system connecting each other. In the middle we are working a lot with partners in the countries in Europe, having all over Europe places where our sensors are connected with partners to the TTN network. And also in Australia, we even deployed ourselves gateways in Australia to set up for customers projects. So TTN is a good idea when you want to have a global or coverage and it's working great to go in every country you like to go. Now, I'm talking about a big project which started 1.5 years ago, and it started with an idea. We want to have a use case which is Swiss-wide, like a whole country covering sensors for a certain purpose. So it was Swisscom as a LoRaWAN operator, Decent Lab as a device manufacturer and a data platform provider, and EMPA, which is a Swiss institution which is responsible for air quality, formed together an idea and have started the project CarboSense, or we also say it's Swiss.CO2.live. And even before deployed one sensor, it was already Swiss News TV approaching us and was asking about our idea. What do you do and what it is for? So we got a lot of attention even before providing anything, then not even a device. So we have worldwide now the densest CO2 network of a country, and we want to monitor there with such a dense network the sources and the sinks of CO2 in urban areas, but also in the whole country. It is, when you have, or what I have to say is, there is already CO2 monitoring sites deployed in Switzerland, but there's 5 references, and they cost about each of them about 100,000 euros. So you can't do that with 300 times of that amount. So we have chosen low-cost CO2 sensors, and this is the first thing. They are not precise at all. They have been used in indoor air quality and ventilation systems. So 1.5 years ago, or I may go back, so it was in the beginning the 4 partners, but the project grew immediately, and if you have a good idea, you see on the right side there's suddenly a lot more stakeholders, and the project or the idea became from a little idea from 4 partners into a bigger project. And sometimes it gets also more complicated. You have to negotiate and to fulfill each other's requirements. But on the other side, the more which are involved, it's also better that it will remain for longer and bring a lot more results at the end of the day. And a lesson learned, or even we did begin with our Zigbee-based communication, was the most important is to have correct sensor data, so that you measure right data, and only then it's a matter of the communication. So we started to develop our sensor and just not only connect the sensor, but everything which comes together, and that's a little bit shown here. We have to go to the lab, make calibration, make response time measurements, and then not only with the bare sensor, then as soon as you put your sensor in an enclosure like that, you have to do again all these measurements, because suddenly the response time, the first times we put the bare sensor in it, we had a terrible response time and it was useless at that time. But it only we did it on the best way, but we had to redo how the sensor is exposed to air and that we fulfill the request that it's useful for the network or for the collecting data. So most of our time in our company, in fact, is around the sensor and not so much around the communication. So when after development we have that's then the final product. It looks not much, it's just one opening and 2 big batteries, and maybe there's also another lesson learned. Put more batteries than you think, because the measurements where you do in the lab, in real, you may often use twice as much as you thought before. So here you can see now, that's our wall of sensors. And yeah, to make 300, 350 sensors from like having some prototypes immediately to that amount is demanding, and we have not so much. It was so short the time, we just went from 5 prototypes to 300, and they had to deliver good data. So normally want to ramp up slower, but we made it. So air quality or CO2 measurements are not that easy, or the requirements by the domain experts in air quality are quite high. So it's not that the sensor alone, when you bring it out, is okay. So that's always when you go to air quality, we have to bring these devices, every device in calibration chambers. So we did climate chamber calibration, so we did cycles of humidity and of temperature. Then we moved to one of the biggest pressure chambers of Switzerland to also find out the pressure changes due to the sensor signal of CO2. So this was done by our partner EMPA. And when you do that with 5 sensors, okay, but when you have then 300 sensors, everything becomes far more complex and very time consuming. So you have a lot of resources in that. And that's not enough. So you have even to bring it out to your reference systems to find out how these sensors behave during normal conditions, when the sun is shining on the enclosures, when there's rain, and all these influences. So we run the 300 devices next to a reference for about 3 months to find out all. And so we are now able to model the behavior of the whole sensors. And we're still on it, or EMPA is on it, I have to say. Now, also a big lesson learned. We have these 300 sensors, we have calibrated, we did put them on this rack, we have everything. Now the next thing is the rollout, or not even better, to have sites. So you have to select 300 sites in Switzerland which fulfill the air quality that they say, okay, that's good, there's no chimney smoking into it, it's above ground, it's vandalism protected, it is far more things. And then it already takes that really a big amount. And then you suddenly know there's not only one partner, so we had to find other people who are helping us. So it's EMPA sites, it's Swisscom sites, it's Meteo Swiss, Swiss Meteorological Weather Service, it's NABEL, this is Air Pollution Network, and suddenly you have a lot more people involved providing that, and you have to search, and then you have to bring out all the sensors. And these sensors, they look all very similar poles, but I have to say there is no generic mounting for this thing. Some are on house walls, some are poles like size of 10 centimeters, some other poles are bigger than this table. So we have 4 or 5 different mountings, and so you have also to design mountings for your large network or sensors when you deploy them countrywide. Okay, so now I have to hurry up a little bit, but you see here that we deployed them in April 2017. These are our sensor devices, and by that we could also monitor how many gateways we see from Swisscom. So it was not that they did here extend the network, but you see here we did begin to roll out our sensors from one part of the reference out to Switzerland, and the longer we are going on and distributing, we see more and more gateways of the network. I have to say these numbers are not really cleaned, so we have it's very overall data, didn't ignore a lot of exceptions, but we have a high reception rate of at least 3 gateways, and I think even now numbers are far better. By up to now, we have 30 million data packets, a reception rate of about 94%, but this means also we didn't count when sensors were turned off or in maintenance or other things. So we didn't clean really the data, but this is maybe an interesting number, is what is signal noise ratio. And spreading factors is a good thing that most of the devices are sending very fast. Yeah, and now the most interesting, I should make it in the other way, up like the ranking. Sure, most of the sensors are in very close range, but it's nice to see that some are even at like 120 and 160 kilometers away. Now there is a video. I hope I can make it run. So you see here how we rolled out. And it's showing the temperature of every second day. You see now how it's getting winter. And another quick animation that we use, and how to maintain the sensor, individual sensors, to look at them. And displaying 300 time series in one graph looks really more art than really scientific. Okay, very quick. This was CO2 mapping and CO2 sensing. Since 4 years, we're working on air quality, on NO2 and NO and CO, the most relevant air pollutants in our currently, which is making the biggest problems. There's just one message here. With this kind of sensors we use, or if in the IoT domain is used, it's very hard to get like values which are really able to be used for authorities, or say giving you good numbers. We had to learn that these gas sensors are more a temperature sensor than a gas sensor. Know that we're 4 years already with that. We developed this also with EMPA, which are the federal, or they are driving the Swiss National Air Pollution Monitoring Network. And yeah, unfortunately, the accuracy, even after post-processing, applying sensor models and all that, it's still not sufficient. Even we give our best, and compared to others, we are quite good. But yeah, this is when I hear a lot in IoT talking about air quality. Unfortunately, it's not so easy to do, also not for us. But we have to wait, and it gets slowly better. So we do air quality also indoors. So don't see it too much, but this is also an application of indoor air quality. It's not only the offices or the buildings or the classrooms. And as often Decent Lab, it happened that people approach us and bring us new challenges. So we are working here together with AirVac, which are want to deploy in the sewer system devices for measuring the water levels in the sewer system. And this is a typically different way of how LoRa is used. So you have the manholes, you have suddenly, immediately, you don't see it here very well, the range decreases to about 100 meters. But still, it's very good that you have a sensor below ground and you have a wireless link of 100 meters, because you can put on every street pole a gateway, or in these street lights, which will be doing in a lot of pilot projects by now. And here as well, in the sewer system, we have other requirements. It have to be ATEX certified. Our device is not yet, so it's proof of concept. New ways to install sensors. They have to be very robust due to the contamination in the water, so it's a rough environment. And also here, you have a little bit the same. Every location is a little bit different, and this makes it hard to deploy several hundred sensors in the city. So each time where you go, you have to look at and have to have a little bit, at least by now. Yeah, sometimes we have become cozy home with our devices. So you see, we had to go through these lessons learned, and we failed also sometimes, especially when we from Switzerland have no experience about the Amazon in Brazil and what kind of animals can do there and chew everything up. Yeah, and there are some other enemies which we are fighting on, and there we also lose. But maybe soon we have a fire-resistant version. Yeah, so that's from my side the real world, or the lessons learned in the real world.
I think we have time for a quick question session.
When you deployed your sensor network, did you have much problem with weather interference and fade and those kind of things? And as the seasons went over with snow and different rain patterns, that kind of
stuff? Which
one? In your whole network, how did the weather impact your deployment? Not the deployment so much, but the uptime of your devices.
Yeah. What I say, the weather, even in our old times with these ZigBee-based radios, which have a poor performance, I always say you have to plan your network with your gateways to have like a big margin that the weather doesn't matter. So you have to have a safety margin that you don't lose really packets. But we did not yet in this large network, we did not yet, map the error rates, if they were together, correlated with storms or weather impact. Yeah, we don't. Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
So it hasn't been much of an issue for you?
No, we don't see. No, but yeah, you need. You should not work at the end. That was in the ZigBee times when we have a range line of sight in the beginning of 2.4 gigahertz of 100 meters. Your customers always went to 100 or 110 meters, and and then you are at the edge of your gateway, of your range, and then you're working at the limit, and you have then issues over time of weather, fog, and all that. So yeah, practical ways to have, as you see here in Amsterdam or Zurich in the T10 community, to overlaps. Like GSM, the GSM network is as well covered of multiple, and that's the nice thing when you look back in the multi-hop networks we used in the past. With LoRa, you send out the package and then you have multiple gateways receiving it, and that makes your system far more robust, and that you receive the package is higher, the probability. And that's great with LoRa.
Okay, moving on to the next question.
Yep. At the beginning, you mentioned the pain of suffering the local, the fragmentation of local regulations, protocols, and so on. Did you go all the way to type approvals, local certifications, or you just went through prototyping so far?
No, so that's maybe also a lesson learned in the past. We did run our own stack and protocols. It's when you're a small company, that's my hint or recommendation is use a certified module with the firmware, because then the module supplier has done big of the work. Also the acceptance by operators is far higher, because they say, okay, that's the module, and you run it in the standard mode, like in the normal modes. Then you shift a lot of your work has been done by somebody else, and then you're focusing on the application, on the sensor integration.
Okay, but even the device itself, even the module certified, you have to go through FCC or Anatel or whatever.
Yeah.
You did
so for some regions it's really proof of concept and pilot phase. So we are there in the progress for the certification.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. The batteries that you show in your CO2 sensor, they don't look rechargeable. Are they?
No.
Okay. And did you calculate the total cost of ownership for your sensors? And the second question is, who is actually responsible then to replace the batteries? Is it Decent Lab or is the governmental?
Yeah. They're really focused on having simple things, and we have chosen to use bare alkaline batteries. These are C-type batteries. You can buy them in every supermarket. So when we ship wherever our customers, even in Europe, they can open the box, take out the batteries, and put new ones. So it's the customer's task. So it's as you buy another device. There are reasons not to have like rechargeable batteries, because the lifetime of these batteries are 5. Like if it measures every minute and sends data every 10 minutes with the CO2 and pressure and these other sensors, it have a lifetime of about approximately 5 years. If you have a rechargeable battery in it of same capacity, same size, they age as well like alkaline batteries. So a rechargeable battery also doesn't last long, or like have also a limited lifetime, so you don't win something.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I think the time is up, so it's time for coffee break or snack break.